Hello everyone and welcome back to my monthly crafting and talking show, Craftversations, where this month my guest is the very dashing, the very charming, the very talented and adorable Blake Silver! Yay!
Hello. Yay! Pumpkins.
Yay, pumpkins! You probably know Blake from, I don't know, Poe Party, where he's an adorable cinnamon roll and small bean. These are two things you've been called.
My dream have become reality.
Blake also worked on the recent production of Deaf West's Spring Awakening that went to Broadway, which is really freaking cool, and we'll talk about that. And you just do a lot of really cool things.
Like carved pumpkins.
Except not carve, because
right, not carve.
We're going to do string art pumpkins. Yay! Are you excited about
I'm really
this?
excited.
Good, I'm glad you like pumpkins.
I always feel a little bad, like I'm going to hurt it, you know?
It's okay.
Because it's already beautiful as is.
It is beautiful, but I think the pumpkin will be excited to get a little
personality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you want to craft along with us today, here's what you'll need for a festive October craft. You'll need a pumpkin. Get some embroidery floss. I got some Halloween-y colors. And you'll need some nails and a hammer and something to draw on your pumpkin with.
And an imagination.
Imagination.
Can't not have that.
That's so true. So first of all, you're going to draw the shape on your pumpkin.
All right.
I'm going to do like a black cat, I think, although I may need to look up.
I know. I'm probably going to have to look something up.
What I want it to look like.
See.
That's okay. I realize I'm putting you on the spot.
It's a great spot to be in.
How do you feel about crafts and crafting, Blake?
I feel like I don't do it enough.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. I enjoy it.
Where did you find this particular craft?
My dad actually sent it to
me.
Yeah, he found it in a book and was like, you should do this.
Is your dad like a professional crafter?
No.
He's not?
No, he's an artsy guy though. So Blake, how did you get involved with Poe Party?
I was part of the first reading. Sean and Sinead asked me to come by and be there for it and read H.G. Wells, which was great.
What did you think? Because not everybody in the cast was there at that first reading. You were, Tom was,
I was, yeah.
Joey was, and Ashley was, and obviously us. What did you think of that first reading? That was like the first time anybody had really seen it.
I remember that we taped it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I actually think that would be wild to hear or listen to again now that we have like the final product.
You're so right.
Just to see what it's become. And I think there were some script changes that happened after the reading.
There were, yeah.
But it was already very funny and very specific, and all of the episodes were really well crafted out. And the mystery was shocking. I just remember being really impressed. I remember feeling like, how is this not something that has already been made? Because it's so good. And
I felt that way too.
You know, I was really excited when everybody was supportive of me continuing in the role. So I ended up, I guess, becoming part of the official cast. You know, you show up to a table read, you don't actually think you're necessarily doing anything other than helping the script come to life.
Well, you were so good in that table read that we were like, oh.
Well, thank you.
Blake is HG. You just
good.
were.
I nailed it.
Nailed it.
It was mine for the taking.
And we're so glad to have had you because now you are becoming quite the fan favorite.
Shocking to me, to be honest. It's really exciting.
Shocked. I am not shocked. I had a feeling you would be HG would be the nerdy boy of all of our sweet nerdy fans' hearts. And you are.
Wow.
They just love you. So.
I'm excited to be a part of it for sure, and I'm also excited because I think I'm going to be doing a golden snitch.
That's cool.
For my craft.
I'm glad I got yellow embroidery floss.
I know.
Then.
I saw. I was like,
I only got a few colors, so thank goodness I got that. So you and Sean have known each other for a long time, yes?
We have, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How's that?
I don't even know how many years has it been. 8?
No, 10.
10.
Whoa.
It's been 10 years.
That's a long time.
An entire decade.
Almost half of my life.
Almost.
That's true.
How did you guys first meet?
We met in acting class, actually. And pretty quickly we started collaborating.
Yeah, I've seen some of the things you guys have done together.
Oh, what does that mean?
They're pretty good. You guys have created a lot of fun things together with Tom as well.
With Tom, Tom, Sean, and I, we go way back, and Tara was in the class. Yeah. Some other really great people.
That's so cool. Well, I'm glad that you guys have been friends for so long, and I'm glad that you being that sort of group of people, were super supportive of Sean and this project from the get-go, and that was really cool. So we're happy to have you in it.
I'm happy that I made the cut, quite literally.
So are you a Harry Potter fan?
I don't think I could be a fan of anything more
Whoa!
than I am of Harry Potter.
You need to slow down, because the girls are already in love with you, and after this...
I came home from school one day, and nobody really heard of it. And the first book was just sitting on my bed. Oh. Just like there. I don't know how it got there. I don't know where it came from. I didn't even know what it was. And I just plopped on my bed and I started reading, and then I was hooked.
Really?
And everybody thought I was crazy.
Really?
I kept telling people they had to go out and they had to read this book and they had to see what it was all about, and I don't know, nobody was interested.
That's so bizarre.
It was very hard to be like the only person in my school who was like in love with this thing that was clearly so amazing. It was just fascinating to see that suddenly it started to gain momentum and people were finding it, and it was really exciting.
That's really cool.
But so as a result, I've always felt like anybody who found Harry Potter, that there's something about it that feels very personal. You know.
Do you have a favorite book of the 7th?
I would say the 6th book.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
I like the 6th book.
I love them all, but I think the 6th is probably my favorite.
Huh. Interesting.
But I don't. There are people who don't like the 2nd. I don't feel that way.
I like the 2nd a lot.
Yeah, I really like the 2nd. I really love all of them. I'm never...
Well, sure. I mean, they're all fantastic.
Yeah.
I was bummed that the 2nd movie was not great, because I really love the 2nd book.
Yeah, I get that.
Who's your favorite Harry Potter character?
Oh, that is a great question. I think I would say, I don't know, Harry Potter?
Yeah, he's my favorite
Harry.
too. And then I get flack for... Not really, but people are like, what? Harry sucks. I'm like, no, I love
What?
Harry. Yeah.
No.
I mean, he's kind of moody at times.
But I guess that's also why I loved it,
Wouldn't you
because
be?
I was, I went through a lot of the phases
Yeah,
Harry went through.
I
People are like,
agree.
in the 5th book, he's so obnoxious and annoying, and I'm like, maybe some of us experienced that growing up, and,
Yeah, I
so
agree.
I felt it was I admired how he evolved.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. It's like, of course, if you have all this, like, responsibility thrust upon you, you're gonna kind of get a little pissy about it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I've always liked him, but I always am a fan of sort of the protagonists, usually. Have you been to Harry Potter World?
I have. I went to Orlando. I haven't been to California yet.
California's fine, but Orlando's where it's at.
It's where it's at?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know that I've been to a good one.
Oh, isn't it so amazing?
You walk in and you're just like, wow. I definitely teared up when I
did too.
I was just like, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry now
I
for
did
a little
too.
while.
And Harry Potter's not my number one. I mean, I love it. Lord of the Rings, as we all know, is my number one.
I love Lord of the Rings.
Do you?
Read The Hobbit in like 6th grade, and then
Did you?
I'd heard about Lord of the Rings, and I never really read it until the movies were announced, and so I would finish each book the day of the movie, and generally like while I was sitting in the audience right before the lights would go out, I'd get to the very last sentence.
Whoa, that's interesting.
And I loved it.
Yeah, I hadn't read them. Well, I saw the first movie, and I didn't know anything about them besides having seen them on my dad's bookshelf.
What made you want to see it?
I was just with my mom, and she was going with her friends, so I went with them. And it just completely changed my life. I walked out of that theater just being like,
this is...
Yeah, I was like, that's the best thing I've ever seen, and that's what I want to do. And so I immediately got the books and I read them all before I saw the next movie came out. And I just loved it so much, and I still do.
Have you reread them?
I haven't in a very long time, and that's actually on my list of things to do this year.
Really?
Yeah, because it's weird because I think of it as my favorite story, obviously, and it is. And anytime I rewatch the movies, and I need to rewatch the movies, or I feel Like, they just invigorate me in a way that nothing else does creatively.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, but I just haven't actually read the books in many years.
Were you sad when Tom Bombadil was not in the movies?
I wasn't. Well, because I saw Fellowship before
Right.
I read the book. So I didn't really have an opinion. Were you upset about that?
I wouldn't. No, I wasn't upset. I mean, he's such a great character that
Totally.
Nowadays, he'd have like 3 movies of his own.
Yeah, I know. So true.
Who, the character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I was just about to say. I really think they did such an excellent job of translating those books into films.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that the Hobbit movies did that, and that's a real shame.
Yeah. I think that was also part of what... It was hard to see Harry Potter adapted on screen, because Lord of the Rings I thought was so excellent in terms of an adaptation, and I don't know if I felt the same
About Harry Potter. Do you like any of those movies?
Have
Have you seen them all?
I've seen all of them, yeah. What diehard fan wouldn't have seen them all?
Well, I just wondered if you saw some of them and disliked them so that you didn't,
Right, just didn't keep going.
Yeah.
They did a great job of convincing me that every time it would be great, and then it wasn't.
And it wasn't. Ooh, that's such a shame. That sucks.
But I appreciate a lot of elements of it.
Sure.
And I thought, like, nobody could be a better McGonagall than Maggie Smith.
Yeah, I
So-
agree. Yeah, are there any that you like at all, or are you you don't feel like any of them really captured the magic for you?
I just love the books.
That is okay, no hate. As I was just thinking about how Wizarding World is based off of the movies.
Yeah, that's why I was crying when I walked in.
Not because you loved it.
No, I loved it. Are you kidding?
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
It's incredible.
So tell us about your theater work, sir. I think many people, if they don't already know, will be so excited and delighted to hear that you worked on Spring Awakening.
I did.
How
yeah.
was that?
There are a few projects that come along in life that
Yeah.
are as creatively fulfilling as that was. And I'm really, I think, just forever thankful that I was able to be a part of it and that it was able to reach the audience that it reached,
Yeah.
That was a really unique process. It was magical.
Have you worked with that company before?
Deaf West? No, it was my first time. But the director, Michael Arden, and I have collaborated
Gotcha.
3 or 4 times before that. And
So that's how you got involved.
yeah.
And you associate directed? Is that
Yep.
correct? Cool.
Associate directed.
What does that mean?
Everybody that you work with in the theater as a director, they have different relationships with their associates, so it really is, it varies. It's not like a job title that means the same thing every time. It's very much how you collaborate. And Michael and I had, like I said, worked together a bunch, so there was a lot that felt at times, it was a very equal playing field, and ideas were ideas, and they came together. It wasn't really about the ownership over this or that. So it was very much a healthy collaboration and respectful, and because it was Michael's baby, it was a concept that he had developed with his now husband, Andy Mantis, and they brought to Deaf West, and I was a part of that. It was always making sure that his vision was being serviced, but also I felt like a lot of what was on that stage was, something we built together. It was just a really healthy, exciting process.
That's so cool.
And then, all the artists that get involved, from Spencer Liff, the choreographer, and the cast, everybody's just bringing fantastic ideas to the table.
Obviously, Spring Awakening is got quite a cult following.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a few times because my good friend Chris Higgins has been in it multiple times.
Of Chris.
Yeah, Chris, who did our behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And nothing against the productions he was in. I think by the time I saw it, it had been so hyped that I saw it and I was like, huh, okay. I didn't dislike it by any means, but it wasn't sort of the revelatory
Right.
whatever that a lot of people feel that it is. And so I kind of always felt bad that I felt that way about Spring Awakening. But then seeing y'all's version was the time that I was like, oh, doing it that way with deaf performers just added so much to the story, in my opinion. And I think it's a very good story to do that way. And it was the only time I've seen that and really felt like very moved by it.
Well, that means a lot. The original musical, when it was on Broadway, a big part of what it was doing that hadn't been done before was creating a lot of noise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the choreography, there was a lot of stomping, a lot of aggression.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for that angst, that teenage angst to come through. And Broadway hadn't seen anything like that before.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really cool in that way, but our production was much more about the silence, the quiet, and not just because we had deaf performers, but that certainly was a way in. So while the original had been all about making noise, ours was all about what happens when the noise is not there. So
that's really interesting.
It was, as far as revivals go, I think a very unique take on something, and I'm proud that we were able to sort of elevate the material in a new way. And
I think so.
I'm really, I don't know, it's kind of wild when you create something you rehearse it in this tiny church in the middle of North Hollywood, and the next thing you know, people all over the world are getting the chance to come see your show.
Yeah, that's pretty bananas.
It was really just remarkable.
Is that sort of like the first experience you've had like that? I just mean, like something sort of becoming so well, reviewed and freaking goes to Broadway. Like, that's such a huge experience. Was that, like, have you ever had anything quite like that before?
Well, everything else I've worked on has always gone to Broadway. Poe Party's going to Broadway.
Surprise!
Surprise! Big news. H.G. Wells is getting a musical number.
Don't tempt them. They're writing it already.
I know. I can't wait. It was wild. The craziest thing about Broadway was the sense of community they have. You're out in LA, the theater, there's a community and it's special, but it's not as easy for every production every night to end up at like the same bars and to see different casts just sort of getting together and hanging out and catching each other on the way to the shows. It's unique, it's special, and you're going to bars afterwards with the cast of Les Mis and the cast of Hamilton, and everybody's all at once celebrating this sort of unique position they're all in, and there's nothing like it.
That's really
There's nothing like it.
So you do a fair amount of directing.
I do, yeah.
Do you consider yourself more of a director than an actor, or do you think about that?
This is so ridiculous to say, but I love storytelling in any capacity, so
I feel you.
Whether it's writing, acting, directing, they all appeal to me. I've been lucky enough to sort of pursue all three in different ways. So I don't ever want to stop doing those three things, And if one happens over another at any given time, it's always exciting and an adventure. So I'm not remiss that I'm in the middle of directing something, but I really want to be acting.
Right. I think it's interesting because I don't know a ton of people who do both. I know more like actor writers, but not a ton of people that direct as well as act to the extent that you do. So I think that's really interesting.
I've never written for myself, oddly enough.
Yeah?
Like the way Sean and Sinead are great at creating a whole universe and including themselves in that. I've never been able to think of myself as I'm writing something. But if I'm done with writing something and then there's a role that I'm like, I could do that, that I just, for some reason, my brain doesn't come at the material like that. I kind of wish I could
do that more?
Yeah, do that more. But
I don't write at all, so I have nothing.
Yet. You might.
No, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I have written something, but I don't aspire to write. I wrote a feature a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah. It's not
Is it top secret?
It's pretty top secret, I guess. I wanted for a time to make it.
Nobody's listening. Tell us all about it.
I wanted for a time to make it happen, but that time has passed, I think. I'm glad I did it because I learned a lot about story structure and just and it wasn't that I took a class. I just had this idea and for some reason I wanted to write it.
Yeah.
And I wrote it with a friend who actually was a screenwriting major, so he actually knew what he was doing. But yeah, it was a very good experience to just sort of learn how movies work.
Right, yeah.
But I wrote it in college, and there's a lot I would change. Well, not really. I think the plot is pretty good, and the characters are pretty good, but it's definitely dated, and I just wrote it without some of the awareness that I have now. Just about.
So why don't you make it a period piece? You're good at that.
It would be an early 2000s period piece.
That's great. That's an important time in history to really begin to study.
It's a Romeo and Juliet story, and it was exactly what I needed at that time in my life, because I was a very sad little bean.
No.
Oh, I was a very sad little bean.
Why?
Yeah. Oh, because I was having my heart all broken, and I was very emo, and I was able to sort of write out my emo fantasies through this little movie, and that was all that needed to be, so.
That's amazing.
Yeah, anyway, all I say, I'm not a writer.
No, I think we're going to do a reading of this. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being an emo bean.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Not trying to say all the emo beans out there. You do you. Keep doing it. And I was super emo for a long time. Now I'm not so much anymore. And that's okay, and that's good. And change is good.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got onto that. So sorry.
I know, I turned the tables on you.
You sure did. So how are you feeling about Poe Party? This is the first, web thing you've been in, really, right? No, I don't mean to. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I think it's absolutely remarkable, and I can't get over how professionally the whole thing's been handled, the shoot, the experience, working with everybody who was involved. I don't think I've laughed as hard on set.
I've never
I mean, Sean and I have had some pretty intense laughing sessions on several of our sets, but this was different. It was. I just can't.
So fun.
You're just sitting there and you're watching these comedic geniuses, and you're just like, how am I in their presence right now?
I would include you in that category, sir.
I don't know about that, but it was really.
It's
really inspiring.
You added so much physical humor that is not on the page, which is really interesting, and I really enjoyed watching you do that.
Almost like you have a background in mime or something.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, secret's out.
Uh-oh, tell us about that.
I went to Northwestern and...
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I forgot that.
Yeah. You're supposed to take some movement classes. There was a mime troupe, and they had a course that you would take if you qualified to get into the mime class, and you took it for 2 years and you qualified each year, you'd be able to join the mime troupe, and I loved it. It wasn't necessarily about the specificity of movement or being technically proficient. It was more about storytelling without words, and how do you use your body to tell a narrative story. It was incredible. I think a lot of my imagination sort of was born in that class, and I got a chance to explore.
That's so cool.
Whatever's going on up there. So, it was cool.
So cool. So do you still do any of that?
Every now and then, they're doing a follow-up film on HBO for 7 Days in Hell, that tennis movie.
Oh, yes.
With
Kit Harington?
Kit Harington and a couple other people. They're doing another film like that's about the Tour de France, and they needed a mime.
Seriously?
So...
Are you doing that?
Yeah, I did it. I shot it,
a
couple weeks ago now.
That's so cool.
And it was really wild.
Yeah?
Very little X-rated.
Whoa.
But
your part or just the movie?
R-rated. Well, both? I don't know.
Okay.
It was fun. It was a little different.
Interesting.
So I don't know what'll make the movie, what won't, but yeah, I actually got to be a mime on screen, so that was cool.
That's really cool. Good for you. So I guess in that case, Hollywood was just like, we need a mime, and your agent was like, I got a guy.
Yeah.
Is that how that worked?
Yeah, pretty much. And that was that. And then, I don't know, the other time I had the chance to be Johnny Depp's photo double.
What?
In the second and third Pirates.
What?
Yeah, and I did not end up getting it or doing it, but I met the director and...
Does Sinead know this?
I don't know. I don't know if she does.
I feel like she would like to know this information.
There was 100 people, 200 people. By the end of the day, they narrowed it down. There were just 10 of us and then 5 of us, and they had us do the walk, and I hadn't seen the film in a long time, so I don't really remember. I was just sort of making it up as I went, and I hadn't eaten. They made us wait all day, and I hadn't eaten, and then they get down to the end where they want to look at your hands because you're going to be doing a lot of the inserts shots for his hands, and I hadn't eaten, so I was a little shaky. And then we left the room, and they brought me and this one guy back in to look at us. And it turns out I don't think ended up going with either of us. I don't know who they used, but
that is so odd.
It was fun. It would have been cool.
Man, Hollywood is just the weirdest.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of weird jobs like that.
Very, very weird.
That's so interesting. So I feel like we have some people who might be aspiring theater directors or film directors or whatever. Definitely some aspiring actors, but we have less people on this show that direct. So I'm just curious, like, would you have any certain things you would encourage them to do in order to, like, make that happen? What would you say to somebody that's, like, wanting to pursue something like that?
I think you need to try to find the people that you respect and collaborate as much as possible and create as much as possible. And don't wait for the opportunities to come to you. Just you have to constantly be making your own opportunities. And now we all have the ability to do that.
I would agree.
You know? So that's, I think, what's at the heart of Poe Party and what you and Sean and Sinead have been able to pull off. And
that's true.
You know, Sarah, and it's remarkable, and I don't think anybody has an excuse not to be doing that. You know?
Yeah, it's funny. I've talked about that some on this show before, just like how long it took me to sort of embrace that idea. Well, mostly because I never thought of myself as much other than an actor, and I still don't really think of myself as a producer. But I always had this like weird idea in my head that like actors didn't create their own work or they must not be doing well, you know, like, which is so dumb.
Well, I mean, but it's understandable.
I think it's just like, I don't know, Hollywood is stupid and it kind of gives you that. But then, you know, I started to realize, A, how unhappy I was because I wasn't doing anything and I was just sitting around waiting for the phone to ring all the time. And then B, so many of, you know, the celebrities, the artists that I admire do that. Like, that's what they do.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that they're just actors. They create their own work or they produce or whatever. And I just kind of was like, oh, I guess that's something I should do. So I just think sort of allowing myself to embrace that idea was a big step.
Yeah.
And now I think it's so good. I just think everybody should do it because you can't really understand how hard it is to make something happen until you make it happen. And then you have a lot more respect when all you're doing is acting. And after you've produced a shoot, the next shoot you're on is just an actor. You're like, this is great.
A breeze. Yeah, that's true.
I can just show up and the food's already there and I can just go home and I'm done. I don't have to wait for everyone else to go home. This is wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'd say is you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it's easy to want to carry all of the weight on your shoulders, and at times you have to be capable of doing that. But there are just so many exciting people out there. Exciting people out there to collaborate with, you know.
Agree.
And you don't... The thing I would say that I've learned is that you don't know what leads to what.
Yeah.
You know, I made... Some friends of mine from Northwestern and I made a musical comedy that was just a digital web series pilot that I directed and created with them. And that little thing turned into, we sold it as I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast perhaps, but we sold it to ABC and Sony to develop it as a real half-hour show.
That's amazing.
And we shot a whole new pilot presentation out of it in Chicago, and I cast Michael Arden.
Oh.
And so that's how I met Michael, and that's how I ended up collaborating with Michael, and that's how we ended up on Broadway together. And so
that's crazy.
You really don't have any idea, you know, that you're going to...
It's so true.
You go down one path and you end up in a completely different place. So
it's so true.
Even if it doesn't seem like the right answer right now, it very well might be.
Yeah.
And it's worth exploring, so...
I totally agree. How's it going? Are you almost done hammering?
I'm trying. I gotta look up the picture again and see what parts I'm missing.
What sort of literature do you like? You like Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I like Harry Potter.
Okay, great.
I like Shel Silverstein.
Okay.
I like Neil Gaiman.
Ooh.
Love Neil Gaiman.
You're just gonna have to cool it because you're gonna make everyone watching this just love you more than they do already. Because that's all the stuff they're into. I haven't read any.
Then I'm in good company, I guess, right?
You are, yes, you are. I haven't read any Neil Gaiman.
You haven't?
No, I hear he's great.
There's a fantastic book you should read of his.
Oh,
I mean, they're all fantastic, but...
Which?
Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Oh, I haven't even heard of that one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's one of his bigger ones or smaller ones, but it's just fantastic. And it's these three women, three generations of women.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more than that, but it's fantastic.
That's
and the
cool.
way he creates the world that he puts them in, and the characters and the story. I'm talking in ways that sound very generic, but trust me, it's worthwhile.
Have you read more of his stuff?
Yeah, The Graveyard Book, which is great.
Mm.
Neverwhere.
Yes, that's one I've heard of.
Yeah.
And American Gods is becoming a show now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, which by Brian Fuller, who I love.
Ooh.
Love Brian Fuller. Created Pushing Daisies.
That's what I was going to say. That's cool.
Another creative genius out there.
Thanks to Debby Li for sponsoring this video. She's awesome. She lives in Singapore and she's one of my patrons. If you'd like to be one of my patrons, visit my Patreon at patreon.com/mkwiles.